Mom had an affair 18 years ago, I am the product of it. My dad just informed me of all this, and told me he will not pay for my college, while my siblings got their college experience paid by our dad. I am not sure if it's what you want to hear, but things are more or less back to a normal state, if you consider other events. Unfortunately, my grandpa died at the beginning of this week, and I am still processing it. I did manage to talk with both my mom and dad, and I know where I now stand in relation with them, as well as my siblings. I am not sure I would have had the courage to say what I had to say if not for the amount of help and advice in the comments. I think it is safe to say both my parents love me, and what happened 2 weeks ago was an overreaction to a fight between my parents. It makes me uncomfortable knowing I am not aware of my own environment, but a stranger in the comments can tell me what's happening in my life with only a few lines of text from my side. A lot of comments were spot on about what is happening in my life. I have so far went through 40%, I estimate, of the comments, but I have given up. There are too many for me to keep up with. The conclusion is that I am definitely going to college. It will be the college I have always wanted to go to, and I will have the same experience as my siblings. The money to pay for all this already exists. My family is not going bankrupt as suggested. My dad just had a mental breakup with all the issues around my grandpa and his fight with my mom. Even if my dad would have went through with his decision, my grandma let me know my grandpa left me and my siblings a sum we will have to split between the three of us, but enough to put me through college. What started the entire scandal was poor timing on my part. My parents just had a fight, and then I showed up. Hey, pay for my college. My parents were talking about us, their children, and mom said something to the lines of to think you wanted to split up when I came back pregnant, or something like that. I was not there. This is what she told me. I guess dad was talking how proud he was of his children, and mom wanted to express her gratitude for dad raising me as his own, and dad took it as the affair was the best decision I ever made or something like that. And their fight escalated from there, and mom told dad something like, "What makes you think any of them are yours?" Yeah, it went downhill from there fast. Shortly after that my dumb face showed up, and here I am. Dad and mom have since made up. Mom is still a mess. Dad is not handling my grandpa's passing away too well either. I did talk with my siblings, and my sister raised a storm and rode it here while blasting my parents on the phone, haha. My brother was calmer, but made his feelings known in no uncertain terms as well once he got back home. My grandpa passing away sort of kept spirits calm, I guess, and shifted the focus to dealing with that. Reading the comments was a mind-opening experience. I felt unprepared for the world out there. Many have asked how I had no idea how to apply for loans or grants. Well, in my defense, when you go year after year after year knowing you have nothing to worry about, that your college as good as paid for already, you don't really have to worry about anything else. Of course I knew there are loans and other things students have to be aware of, but it didn't apply to me. I went from I am going to college, can't wait to you're not my son and I will not pay for your college in less than 24 hours. Others have been prepared for this. At the very least they knew they had to get a loan, or get a job, look for a place to live, and so on. For me it was a sudden change in reality. Going through the comments I managed to put a list together with various tips and tricks, what jobs are available for students, how to find a place to live, how to get a credit card, a bank account, a cell phone plan, and so on. Really good stuff that I think, even after the return to normal, will help me. My parents have been called more names than they go by, and that was uncomfortable to read, and I haven't even read all comments. I can't even imagine what else lies in the comments, waiting. Dad is very sorry, apologetic, about his reaction and behavior. I understand his reaction, but I still feel hurt by it. I understand he was not in the best place of mind, but I can't control my feelings either. We will be alright, and this hasn't irreparably damaged our relationship. Mom hasn't handled everything that well. but she is coming around, and she answered some more questions for me. When mom had an affair years ago, and got pregnant with me, my parents started divorce. Mom moved in with the man she had the affair with, but after a few months that guy decided he wants nothing to do with it. He kicked mom out, and she had nowhere to go. So my grandparents took her in, because she was still the mother of their nephew's grandkids. I am getting a lot of heat for this mistake, but no, in my family's culture, grandparents call their grandkids nephews as well. Mom and dad got back together. After a lot of work, dad took me as his own, and that's my life since then. The man who is my natural father is not in the picture anymore. Dad didn't really know who he is, and mom hasn't heard or seen him ever since. He was fully aware mom was pregnant with his child. I guess he had more important things to do. But it doesn't sound like he was about to cure world hunger. She met him in a bar, not at a fundraiser. And I don't feel a need to know any more about who he is. I thought about the matter the last 2 weeks, since I've been aware of everything, and haven't really felt a desire to know who he is, where he is, if he is still alive, if I have other siblings out there. I was suggested to go and buy a DNA kit from 23andMe, maybe I can find him that way, but I think I will avoid doing this specifically so I don't find him or he finds me. As far as I care, I have a mom and dad and a brother and a sister, and that's my family. Moving forward, I do plan of getting a job, and becoming more independent, but not in an attempt to distance myself from my family, but to feel like I would not be lost in the world if my family suddenly disappears. My mom admits I've been babied way more than my siblings, and that they should have prepared me more for what's coming next. I did learn where I stand with my family, and it's safe to say that I am loved, and I have options. I thought I am isolated, but my world is wider than I thought. Grandparents, siblings, my aunt, my cousins, all have my back. I think my parents are human, and they make mistakes, and even though this was not their greatest moment, I think I will look at everything as nothing more than a weak moment in an otherwise wonderful relationship. Comment. Yeah, he definitely made good choice to not distance himself from family and to become more independent. Despite the small blemishes, they have treated him well. Sometimes your real father to you is not your real father. Sorry, but a big part of becoming an adult is learning that your parents are just flawed human beings. Sounds like you were collateral damage because your parents could never resolve your mom's infidelity. You will all get past it. Let your dad know, if you can, that you understand this week has been horribly stressful and that people say things they don't mean. So sorry about your grandfather. Your last paragraph is spot on. It's a sobering experience when you realize your parents are winging things just like everyone else. They're human, imperfect, screw up, hurt the ones they love, same as all of us. Sorry you had to find out the way you did. That experience would have sucks. But hopefully you all move on from there and keep loving each other. Good luck. Next story 3. My wife keeps tying my boots after I've told her to keep her hands off of them. I tried to teach her a lesson and really hurt her feelings. Yes, I know the title is bizarre and I can't believe I'm actually writing this. My wife is a neat freak. Always has been. She throws notes on my desk out assuming they're garbage. My belongings get rearranged to the point where it takes me hours to find them. It's something I've come to accept. I'm not happy about it, but we have a pretty happy marriage on the whole. I am a volunteer EMT, and I keep my boots unlaced up against the wall next to my clothes hamper so that I can throw them on along with my uniform if a call comes in during the middle of the night. Well, my wife has taken to tying the boot laces when she sees them untied. Not only does she tie them, but she tightens them and double knots them to the point where I need to undo the knot, open up the boots, and let a little slack out to fit my feet into them. I ignored it the first 2 times, but the 3rd time she did it, I made it a point to bring up to her the next day. I very calmly said, "Hun, I appreciate that you want everything neat, but please do not touch my boots in the future." Time is of the essence when I'm going on a call, and at 2 in the morning I don't have the time to unlace them and open them up. It's not just a minor inconvenience, it's people's lives, so I would appreciate it if you left them alone. She rolled her eyes, said I was being dramatic, and that she wouldn't help me out by keeping my things neat in the future. Well, she never stopped. No matter how many times I've asked her, told her, begged her, she just laughs and says, "Well, you know how I am." The other night a page went out for a CPR in progress. I went to throw my boots on and they were, once again, tightened beyond recognition. So I'm sitting there on the edge of the bed, cursing, trying to get my boots open, and fumbling due to the stress of the situation. My wife opened her eyes, groggily looked at me, and asked, "Don't you need to go on that call?" I know I was in the wrong here, and I regret it. I slammed the boot into the ground and yelled, "Yes, I do. I would have been out the door 5 minutes ago, except some stupid mother with my goddamn boots again." My wife got up without another word, walked into the bathroom and slammed the door. I got my boots open and went on the call. By the time we arrived, the police had gotten her back, so I didn't have to do CPR, but I was sweating and shaking, thinking my delay could have cost a life. I got home and my wife wasn't talking to me. She ignored me the entire day until we finally sat down and talked. She said I had scared her with how angry I got, that she thought I was going to hit her, and she didn't know I was capable of getting so angry. Note, I have never raised a hand to her, nor have I ever yelled at her before. I am absolutely not a violent person in any way, shape or form. I apologized for yelling at her, and acknowledged that I hadn't meant to snap at her. I was frustrated with the situation as I needed to get to the person in need of CPR as soon as possible, and it was a delay that didn't need to happen. I, once again, pleaded with her not to touch my boots because lives were literally on the line. She told me that if I was going to overreact and make her afraid, then she would never touch my boots again because she didn't want to live like that. Last night, before I got into bed, I had a sinking feeling, so I went over and checked my boots. I was very disappointed to find them tightened up again. So I decided to show her how it felt. I went over to her closet and pulled out her running shoes. I unlaced the shoelaces on both of them, removed them from the shoes completely, curled them each into a little coil, put them inside the shoes, and put them back. I then went to sleep. At 6:15 I was woken up by my wife screaming, "How could you? Why would you do this?" holding up both laceless shoes with tears in her eyes. My wife likes to go for an early morning run, and I knew she would want to get out the door as soon as possible. I smiled and said, "You know how I am. I just like things neat." She continued sobbing and walked out of the room. So, by the time she was all laced up again, it was raining, so she missed out on her run. I actually feel pretty terrible about that because I really only wanted to delay her, not ruin her plans completely. At this point, she's alternating between crying that I went out of my way to hurt her and ignoring my presence. I acknowledge that what I've done has been pretty childish and not at all constructive. I just don't know what to do. She said, through tears, "You admitted you were totally in the wrong for yelling at me, and then you turned around and took it out on me in a different way. What is wrong with you?" The problem is, to her, an apology means taking on 100% of the fault. When I apologized for blowing up, she took that to mean she was 100% in the right and that my feelings were completely unjustified. So at this point, I haven't apologized for ruining her run, because she'll take that to mean that she wasn't wrong to touch my boots. I've tried to have these discussions, but it's in one ear and out the other. We have such a good relationship otherwise, but I feel like this issue has reached a tipping point and it's going to continue to result in arguments until we resolve it. How do I make things right with my wife while still letting her know that I won't tolerate her disrespecting my property anymore? Comment. Tell your wife that this interference with your gear could crash your marriage and facilitate a death. And is she good with that, or will she work on herself? Why does your wife not take what you do seriously? I'm sorry to say this, but she seems so out of touch and unempathetic if she thinks that being an EMT is just transporting boo-boos. I hope for your sake that she realizes soon that you do really important work by helping people, and that taking any extra time to reach someone may cost that person their life. Dude, I'm sorry, cause she's your wife, and I do not intend to offend or insult her or you in any way, for saying this, but I have no idea why you're taking yourself on a guilt trip. It is not funny if someone loses a life because of her obsession with neatness, but clearly she seems to shrug it off with a laugh. She may be playing the victim here, but it's actually you who is being victimized, and you're not in the wrong. She may be a really nice person overall, but her failure to respect how you want your things to be is simply unacceptable. I can understand compromises, but just because you apologize because you feel bad for venting out on her, she's using that to play the victim and is preying on your guilt. The nicest people with the best of intentions can do horrible things thinking they are in the right. You need to lay down the law and make her realize she needs to compromise on her obsession to an extent too. It has to be a two-way street.